Hey friends, I'm Larry McGuire, organisation psychologist. Welcome to Q&A Friday. I had a topic that I wanted to talk about, and this is really important for those of you who work for other people. It doesn't matter whether you're an executive, whether you are, in C-suite or whatever, whether you're in senior management, middle management, lower management, whether you're a supervisor, whether you're a plates and cups and dishes washer, or you sweep the floor, it doesn't matter. If you're working for somebody else, there's something important you need to understand. And that important thing was highlighted to me today as if it needed highlighting, but occasionally it does. And I felt the urge, the necessity to get this down. The situation is this: if you're a part of an organization, if you work for somebody else and they pay you, well, then you're under their thumb. You are a part of their machine. Now, who gets to say how the machine works? Well, the organization is not democratic. So the people who own it get to say how it works. And if it's a large multinational where perhaps there are, and it's a publicly listed company, there could be thousands or tens of thousands of, or maybe even hundreds of thousands of owners of the business in the form of, shares and what have you. But the priority major shareholders get to decide how the company is run. So the company is there to serve their interests, whether we like it or not. I don't care whether it makes clothes, whether it runs a railway, whether it provides services to the IT sector. It doesn't matter. If you work for an organization, you do what they say and they pay you. Now, there might be some freedom around that in the sense that, they give you stuff to do, they outline your role and your duties and so forth. But how you use your time to get that done is up to you. You're afforded that flexibility, and that's great. And organisations might say, let's put in place an employee assistance program as another example, so we can maybe help our workers be healthier, psychologically, emotionally, physiologically, and that's great too. Let's give our people access to healthcare. Let's make contributions to their pension and so forth. They only do that because they can afford to. They only do that because they know if they do these things, you'll perform better. And ultimately, what the function of the organization, the for-profit business is to make money, is to be profitable. Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because if it doesn't make profit, it ceases to be viable and then disappears, and everybody goes off and has to find work somewhere else. But the overarching premise, the fundamental premise of an organization, for profit organization, is to make money. And you and I are merely a cog in that machine. And we are only free to the extent that the organization allows us freedom. But we are bound, there's no doubt about it. And I know this because I was an employer at one point. I didn't employ a lot of people, 20 something people. And I know that running an organization, running a business, a for profit business, demands certain behaviors from the people who run it. They demand the owners to behave in a particular way, to push their agenda, and to make sure that everybody in the organization is moving in the same direction. Well, it makes sense, right? So if you're running a charitable organization, or if you're running a team, or a sports club, or whatever structure it happens to be, and you're looking for buy-in, and you're looking for cohesion, and you're looking for a particular positively oriented culture in order that you can just get things done. Now, that's great if the organization is there to serve the people, if it's a democratically run, structured organization, but most are not. They're hierarchical, which means it comes from the top down, and those at the lower end of the scale get paid the least, and so are perhaps have the greatest demands imposed on them, maybe arguably in more need of the salary at the end of the month than anyone else in the organization. So the organization is not there to serve the people. The organization is there to serve itself, if it's a for-profit organization, and charitable organizations as well. Charity is big business. Philanthropy is big business. That's just a side note. So you and I, when we work for an organization, are merely cogs in the machine. We used to say, when I worked on the sites years ago, long time ago, that we work from the neck down, we're just a number. And it's true. They don't want to know how you really feel. They don't want to know if you're suffering under the weight of this work that you do. They don't really want to know. Now, who are they? Well, they're the people who run it. They might, okay, so people care for people. I care for my children. I care for my wife. I care for the old person who's struggling, maybe, or the disabled person who's trying to get off the bus. I'll offer a hand, or the old person wants a seat, or if I see someone being victimized on the street or in public, I'll intervene. I care. I'll give someone a tenner who's living on the street. We all do. We make charitable contributions. I think human beings at their core care about other human beings. But this is the thing about the workplace. When it's primarily oriented around making money, being profitable, well, then the needs and wants and desires of people come second, whether we like to believe it or not. I know this, as I mentioned, not only because I ran a business and employed people, but also because I'm an organizational psychologist. I'm a work psychologist. So I know the theory, and I know the philosophy, and I know the foundations of the thought that's delivered to MBA students, business students, people who are studying in college for the first time, HR graduates. They all get the same info, and it's all structured towards people need to be molded, need to be culturized, need to be socialized to the needs of the organization. And if you can't do that, well, then the organization ceases to function. So that's the truth. Some people would like to believe otherwise, but the fact of the matter is, as Chomsky said, for-profit organizations, the workplace is a top-down dictatorial setup where you don't get to choose your work. The work is chosen for you, and you rent yourself to the organization, and they give you a wage. So, as Chomsky says or suggests, we are waged slaves, and that's it. We rent our minds, our bodies, our blood, sweat, and tears, our emotions, our time to an organization. They give us money. And also, to add to that, in fact, what they pay us is only a very small portion of actually what they make from selling what we do to the broader public. So what brought this to mind today for me was let's leave identities and all that sort of stuff out of it. I'll try and be as general as I can. But what brought this to mind for me today significantly was an experience I had with an organization. I was the client, I was the customer. They have hundreds of thousands of customers, especially in the summertime. And so I needed help. I was on their premises. I was using their services, their entertainment setup, and I was enjoying myself. Well, I wasn't really enjoying myself. I didn't really want to be there, to be honest with you. But I went because the kids wanted to go, and we went along, and I make the best of this. So anyway, long story short, I needed their help, and they were unwilling and unable to give that to me. So there was a problem, and I approached customer service and I said, "Can you help me with this?" And they said, "Sorry, we can't do it." So I went to another part of the organization, another representative, and I said, "Listen, I have a problem." I explained my problem, and they said, "Sorry, there's nothing we can do at the moment until 6:30. This was like, I don't know, 12:30 in the afternoon, until 6:30 this evening. And there was a lot of money involved. So anyway, I saw two or three different people, and they all said, "Sorry, there's nothing I can do." And it struck me how significantly these people, these employees were molded, culturized, trained to the system. And I understand why that's necessary, because you need the machine working well. But when you and I become an employee, we lose our individual identity. It's required of us to give up who we are and to become something else, to become this thing. So all these people I met today, I was trying to convince them, maybe appealing to their humanity to help me sort this out, but they couldn't or wouldn't or otherwise. They were locked in the particular mindset that the organization required of them. And then they paid them at the end of the month or whatever. So I took it upon myself to sort it myself, because that's the type of bloke I am. I just, I took the initiative, let's say, and I sorted it. Now, I sorted it to a degree. I was still at a loss, but I sorted it anyway. And all of a sudden, now picture this, prior to me sorting this out myself, I couldn't get anyone to help me. They all said, sorry, can't do that. But as soon as I broke their rules and I decided to take the initiative and do it myself, they came out of the woodwork. Security, management, the whole lot. And they were horrified that I had broken the rules in order to get the solution to my problem. There was no one else hurt in the process. There was no damage to property. There was no ulterior. There was no other damage or to people or to property or otherwise. Everything worked out as well. It kind of worked out for me. It worked out probably halfway, but it wasn't a complete loss. But they were completely horrified and shocked, and they all switched into Hitler mode. And there was threats and all sorts of things went on. And it just struck me how willing they were to get moving when the rules that they were hired to keep were broken than they were when someone actually needed assistance. So the moral of the story is an organization isn't set up to help you, even if they provide you with a service. If it's providing you with cups of coffee, or if they deliver stuff to your house, or whatever happens to be, they don't exist to serve you. They exist to make something, sell it to you, take your money, and earn a profit. To make a profit. That's it. And they can fluff it up, and they can paint it up, and they can put lovely flowers on it, and they can talk about LGBTQT plus and all the rest of it, and they can talk about race, and they can talk about creed, and they can talk about religion, and they can talk about meeting the needs of people, and they can make adverts on the television and convince you that they're great and they love you and they look after you and blah blah blah. It's all complete and utter nonsense. It's a lie. It's a spoof. They spin a yarn in order to get you in the door. That's how they operate. That's how the world that we have built works. That's how the world of work works. So they go out and they look for people to fulfill a role, to give over their sense of autonomy, their need for meaning and purpose in their work, and to just get paid to leave this at home. That's how it works. So if you want to be free in your work, insofar as it's possible to be free, you've got to do your own thing. You've got to build your own thing. And I've been thinking long and hard about this, because I have believed this for a very, very, very long time, since I was probably in my early 20s, that I felt the urge to do something for myself, to make something. And I went down one road and it didn't work. I was incompatible. I found myself, much like Buckminster Fuller when you read Critical Path, I found myself incompatible with this system because, for whatever reason, it requires us to take advantage of others. It requires people to be willing to work less than what they're worth. That's a problem. There are lots of problems with it. But if you want to be free, this is the crux of this short video. If you want to be free, you've got to work for yourself. You've got to do your own thing. You've got to build your own machine. You've got to be confident in your own skin. You've got to be willing to fuck it up. You've got to be willing to make mistakes and learn from them. You've got to be willing to keep going. That's my message. Because if you don't do that and you go working for somebody else, well, you have to give up your sense of humanity almost. Your need to do the right thing, because you'll give that over in order to do what the organization wants you to do. It happens so often. It happens every single day in the world when you go out on the street and you're buying shoes or coffee or buying an hour of service time from your internet provider or whatever. People are trained to meet the needs and demands of the organization, not to meet the demands of people. Remember that. It's important. Do your own thing. Build your own machine. Start a business of one, whatever it happens to be. Find freedom and purpose in your work. Make sure you have that, because life's too short. All right, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.